Welcome to our LA County Library virtual event, Educational Options, Seed LA. I'm Caroline Chang, Arts Program Manager at LA County Library, and I will be your host today. And this program is the first in a series we're starting this year showcasing specialty high schools with a unique subject focus or admissions process. A few housekeeping things before we begin. The mics and videos have been disabled for all participants of the event. So if you have any questions or technical issues during the program, please share them with us on the right-hand side of your screen in the chat section, and make sure you set it to all panelists so that all the folks here today presenting can see all your questions. We'll do our best to answer everything during the program, and we are recording this presentation, and we'll be sharing an edited version of this with everyone who registered. So in today's program, like I said, we will be learning all about Seed LA, and to start, I would like to introduce Library Director Sky Patrick.
Oh, thank you so much, Caroline, for that introduction, and welcome to our new program. I'd like to wish everyone a happy Lunar New Year for 2022, the year of the tiger. I'm really happy to be here today and being a part of this program and to share with you this groundbreaking work of Seed LA. Seed LA is the first public college preparatory boarding school in the state of California. This program was brought to Los Angeles County by the 2nd District Supervisor and Board Chair, Supervisor Holly Mitchell. The library would like to acknowledge Supervisor Holly Mitchell for her leadership role in bringing Seed LA to the county and for her deep dedication to early childhood education and advancement of our young residents. So to help kick off the event tonight, we have invited a special guest to join us. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce all of you to Claudia Gutierrez, who is the Senior Deputy for Legal Services for the 2nd Supervisorial District. Claudia, if you would just give us a few words about this wonderful program, we would greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Sky, and thanks for allowing me to share some time here with you. Claudia Gutierrez here, representing Supervisor Mitchell, and on behalf of Supervisor Mitchell, we want to thank the Library Department for making this happen tonight. I realize that there's a lot on your plate right now with everything that we've all experienced as a community, and this matters. And I think that having the space to have this conversation and hear from Seed directly, I hope will benefit a lot of families that we serve. So on behalf of Supervisor Mitchell, thank you, Sky, for your leadership and vision, and for this partnership that we're building with Seed. And thank you, Jillian, for coming here today to help us learn about the process and the exciting possibility of signing up your current 8th grader to be part of the incoming class. It's a big, exciting project, and the 2nd District has been working on this for many years, and we cannot be happier to know that we're on the brink of opening the doors. So thank you again, Sky, and thank you, Jillian, and I look forward to learning all about the process myself.
Thank you, Claudia. Caroline, shall I turn it back over to you?
Yes, thank you so much, Sky, and thank you so much, Claudia, for taking the time to speak with us today. It's so amazing to hear about all the hard work and dedication that went into bringing this unique program to LA County, and we're so thankful for you, your colleagues, and the leadership of Supervisor Holly Mitchell in this effort. So next, I would like to introduce Jillian Juman from Seed LA, who will give us a presentation about the school, and then afterwards we'll have a Q&A. If you have any questions for Jillian during the presentation or for anybody else here today, please put them in the chat and make sure you send it to all panelists again. We'll collect your questions and try to get through as many of them as possible towards the end. And now I will hand it over to you, Jillian.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Sky and Claudia, and to the County Library for giving an opportunity for so many of us to kind of talk about good options for our students and our incoming high school students. So proud to talk about Seed LA. And as we're getting a slide up, we're going to talk a little bit about 3 core big pieces today to give a real good view of what Seed LA is. So we're going to understand the Seed LA model of excellence today, what it looks like, feels like, sounds like for students. We're going to recognize the similarities and differences between CLA and traditional school models. My guess is you'll see some components where you're like, that feels a little bit like when I went to school, and some of it feels very different on purpose. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to talk about the application process. Whether you have an 8th grader at home or know an 8th grader, we want to make sure that every single family in Los Angeles County, I'm going to talk about that in a minute, really knows that they have access to CLA and it feels like a choice for this spring. So let's go to our next slide. Just a little bit about me. Not only do I have 2 very large dogs, I was kind of born and raised in California and have been for the last 21 years academic dean, principal, network leader. And so my work has been grounded in how do we make sure we have access, good education, quality education that prepares students for college. And we always say college prep, but what we really mean is not only giving students knowledge, but giving them the emotional and socio-emotional mobility to be able to navigate college in a way that feels good, it feels exciting, and that they can have intellectual conversation and make friends with anyone that they meet around the country, around the world in college. Next slide. Our core mission is a college preparatory boarding school, and we're really focused on bridging, as I just mentioned before, our academics and our socio-emotional learning to make sure that college is there. We're part of a sister club, a sister group of other schools, of other networks where we have DC, we have CDC, Seed Maryland, and Seed Miami. And so the 4 schools really work as colleagues, as thought partners, but we also have a lot of data behind us to show that this model prepares students for college, it prepares students for success, and that our work is about making this about Los Angeles. And so we'll talk a little bit about that model in the next few slides. Next. What you're going to feel and kind of hopefully see throughout this presentation is we have some really core values that center around CLA and the work that we believe our students do and our adults do to make sure it's a good learning environment. We believe in showing respect, displaying responsibility, exemplifying perseverance, acting with integrity, having compassion, exhibiting compassion, showing gratitude, and demonstrating growth, both in your commitment to your excellence of academic growth, but also your own self as you're improving. Next slide. So as we talk about this, what's really important to keep in mind is that CLA covers all of Los Angeles County. And so all 96 miles, so students can apply, and we'll talk a little bit about how we make sure that it's accessible for everyone, but everyone can apply for it. We do have a weighted lottery for students who live in the Vermont-Manchester neighborhood where our school will be housed. In South Los Angeles, our resilient youth throughout Los Angeles County who have been possibly disenchanted with education. That could be students who have struggled with homelessness in the past. It could have been foster care students currently or in the past in foster care. It also could have parents that are currently incarcerated. And so we believe that CLA model will provide an opportunity for students to feel enriched, excited, and kind of re-inspired into education. And then, of course, everyone in Los Angeles County. I would say this model is really helpful for students who just want to focus and go really deep in their studies and really kind of deep in the work that they want to do and develop their own identity. And then there's also students who would really benefit who at home feels hard. And so it's a nice opportunity to kind of balance the stakes and provide an opportunity for all students to have equal access to amazing education here in Los Angeles. Next slide. So let's talk a little bit about the model and what it looks like. And you're going to see here that there's some things that feel very similar and some things that feel very different. So Monday through Thursday, students wake up at about 7:30. They take their shower, they get dressed, they do their chores, make their bed, and then they travel in cohorts, and we'll talk about that in a minute, to breakfast. Breakfast is where they're going to see their teachers for the first time of the day, say hello, and they go straight into their classrooms. And so similar to most high schools, there'll be a block schedule. So they'll have classes Monday, Wednesday, and Tuesdays, Thursdays. We'll look at a schedule in just a moment. They'll have nutrition and they'll have lunch like a normal schedule. And then after school on Mondays, they have a community meeting where we come together and just kind of discuss the news, right? Local news and our own news, what's happening. And then Tuesday through Thursday, we're really focusing on what content areas students can really thrive in, where can tutoring really come in, and then also what classes are students doing really well that we could just push them to the next level as we're thinking about college preparatory courses. Students will then go into activities. So it could be that students are doing sports or in a soccer team or a basketball team. So they might be doing sports, or they might be signed up in dance or student government or some other interest, gardening. So it's really important that we believe that not only are you academically part of the day, you are also thinking deeply about kind of what are you interested in exploring. That's equally as important. Students come back together for dinner, have study hall, community time, which we're going to talk about in a minute. We do circle work, quiet house, some a little light reading, and lights out. So that's Monday and Thursday. Friday's a little bit different. Students see their teachers, all of their teachers on Friday. So they're doing assessments that day and also catching up on things that they need to learn before they go into the weekend. And then students check out at 2 o'clock to go home. So students stay with us Monday through Thursday. They come on Sundays and then stay Monday through Thursday and then leave on Fridays. So there's a nice balance between family and friend time and also academic and self-learning. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Next slide. So we're going to get deep into the 24-hour model just a little bit more specifically. Next slide. So let's talk about before school. So we talked about we have shower, we're getting ready for the day, we're making our beds. That's something I never did, but we're going to do that. Make sure it's all a pattern, right? It's important that we learn that. And then girls and boys are in separate dorms, and we'll have an opportunity to look at one of the dorms and how that works. But they're in separate dorms, and they're supervised in the morning by residential advisors. And residential advisors are the folks that walk the hallways at night to make sure students get what they need. If they need water, if they're feeling ill, we make sure we call home. So those are folks that are there for them all the way into the morning that take them to breakfast. So students will travel in 15 to 20 students at a time. Those are their houses. And those are the group of students that really become kind of home away from home. Right, you're learning with them, you're kind of living in the same proximity, and you're traveling to breakfast together. Students will then see their teachers and then say goodbye to their residential advisors. So you're going to see as we're talking the kind of 24-hour day supervision, but also the 24-hour day support that happens. So saying goodbye to residential advisors, say hello to teachers, and then we move into the second part of the day. Next slide. So let's talk a little bit around kind of the academics. So we mentioned earlier that it's block scheduling. So you might have your A schedule Monday and Wednesday. So you might have English, for example, and science and AP, pre-AP world history, right? Because we're preparing for advanced placement classes that prepares for SATs, that prepares to college starting in the 9th grade. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you might have your math class, which might be algebra or geometry in the 9th grade. Computer science skills, we're a STEM school, so we'll talk about that in a minute. So we're alternating on those days, and then Fridays you have every single day. What I want you to kind of look at, we have college knowledge, and that's a really cool course that starts in 9th grade. It's taught by the college counselor, and it's really focusing on two things. One is what specifically do we need to know about college specifically across the country? What does that look like? What the different kind of colleges that are available? We plan trips to colleges, but it also really talks about the skills that make you very successful in college. This course goes all the way to the time they graduate high school, right? Each year increasing more and more on the trips that they take to go to college. And then we actually extend it to go into the college years. So we stay with students for 8 or 9 years. I like to call it the 8 or 9 year marriage, where we are checking in with them with their guidance counselors, wherever college they choose to go to, whatever best fit college they choose to go to. We check in with them on Skype and Zoom to say, how's it going, to make sure that they are graduating and getting where they need to go past college. And so there's a method to our madness. There's a formula around preparing students in a real way and then supporting them all the way through. Next slide. This is a slide I'd just like to show. We are about not only just meeting California standards, we are about meeting college standards and making sure students are very competitive in the content that they're learning. So when students graduate from SEED, they have a wealth of knowledge that's beyond the requirements to make sure that they are going to college and feeling like they can comfortably talk about different texts and different mathematic problems and different kinds of theories of action across the different content areas so that they're ready to be competitive. But not only that, enjoy college and really kind of grow as students. Next slide. One of the unique things about SEED LA particularly is we have a fabulous partnership with Metro. And what Metro is really about is infrastructure and the industry around thinking about how cities work, right? And how people connect. And that's an important piece that expands across all of our content areas, how people connect and how cities work. And that's the legal system, that's the architecture, that is government, that is all the pieces that make us kind of connect and be who we are. And so a lot of that studying happens through computer science, it happens through engineering, but we also really focus on a strong partnership where Metro provides different mentors starting in the 9th grade. So students can sit down and say, talk to me about legal studies. How does that work? What does it mean to be a public advocate, right? So that starts in the 9th grade and continues in the 10th grade, 11th and 12th to where it becomes an internship. And so students can go and experience what it is to do these kind of jobs. What does it mean to kind of have a large responsibility for how people connect and how cities work? So students are leaving the 12th grade with a resume that is far beyond many of us, including myself, get even in college. So there is a wealth of knowledge that they're entering in that will prepare them not only for college, but also to really kind of deeply understand what is the service that they want to give as they're thinking about becoming leaders of our city, our state, and our country. Next slide. Okay, so we talked about the morning, we talked about the day. Now we're getting into our student life program. So this is after we've done some tutoring and some kind of mentoring and thinking, what does after school look like? This is students' favorite slide, right? What do we get to do? So this is when the student life counselors step in. So we've had our residential advisors, we've had our teachers, our teaching staff, our college counselor, and then we meet our student life counselor. And a student life counselor, there is one student life counselor for every 15 to 17 students, or you could say per house. And their responsibility is to not only check in and say, how's it going with your teachers? Let's communicate with your families. They're not just the connective link. They're also important because they're teaching our Compass curriculum, which is a socio-emotional learning that we are dedicated to. We don't just say SEL learning, we believe in it. They also make sure students are enrolled in the athletics program and make sure that they go, right? Make sure those socks are picked up and all the equipment is there, right? All those things that end up all around, I know my house. And so they make sure that they're ready to go. And they also kind of say, what are you interested in? Are you interested in being in the engineering club? Are you interested in exploring gardening? So they're there to kind of make sure students get where they need to go, but also deeply are involved in what inspires them. So you'll see on the left side, the picture on the top is of one of our schools. That's the basketball team. And on the bottom, that's the volleyball team. So it's something that's embedded into the SEED culture. Next slide. So our Compass curriculum, as I mentioned before, is our SEL program. It's something that we not only teach, but we do actively, both as adults and students on campus. And we see it as a journey. It's a 4-year journey and beyond. I would call it a life journey, where you're making commitments around exploration, responsibility, taking responsibility, having responsibility, community, leadership, and service. And so it's wrapped around kind of core habits and then core behaviors of being. And the core habits are around having sharp minds, noble purpose, strong hearts. Another way to think of that is passion and aligned actions. What you say you're going to do, you got to do it. And how important that is in building trust and relationships. And then we believe in core behaviors, having curiosity and valuing diversity. You can't have one without the other. Joy and identity, courage and kindness, and determination and integrity are all the components that make up our journey around who we are as human beings and valuing who other people are. Next slide. I like to throw this in just because it's beautiful, but it's also just really cool. So one of the things around CEDLA is we're in the next couple of years building an edible garden, in which I'm hoping the first 9th grade class are architects of that, right? Thinking about how people connect and how things move. A garden is where we can plant together and then also cook together. It's also a place where we can bring in our family, and a place where we can really have a community come together around making something ourselves with our hands. And so we're going to have a beautiful rooftop edible garden. And I just love this picture because it's just a great image of kind of what we're imagining and what students can do. Next slide. So the student life program, so students do activities, they're playing sports, they're coming together as a community, and then it's time to come back with your student life counselor into your houses, and then you go to dinner. You go to study hall together, right? So there's homework, or there's a last thing that we know because we're connected. This is the difference between a traditional school model and kind of CEDLA. Whatever happens during the day, our staff is connected. So we can come back and say, oh, we know that problem of practice at science was really hard today. Let's circle back there. Community time, where we'll have a circle. We'll talk about our Compass curriculum, independent reading, and lights out for the bedtime. Student life counselors leave around midnight, and residential advisors step in. So you'll see that's kind of the handoff where they can say, this is what happened during the day. Check out this student. They've had some questions, and then they stay with them until the morning. So that's the 24-hour cycle around support and supervision. Next slide. So here's an image of the campus. It's just fun. You're overlooking at your Vermont's on the left side here. And this is the residential dorms that are right in front of you. So I'm going to actually start right in front. You're going to see kind of students sitting on a bench. This is our edge of our soccer field. Then you kind of travel down, you see a huge quad. Now, this probably feels like a college campus in the heart of South LA, because that's the purpose of it. Students are going to come on campus and feel a sense of pride, excitement, and a sense of collegiality, right? Kind of we're here together, we're here to do this work, we're here to learn. So it's going to feel really good. On the right side, you'll see a dining hall. It's glass all the way around, so it has that nice feel. And then as you kind of look down, you'll see another dip, and that is another grass area that opens up into what's going to be our library, or what we're going to call the hub, that also has our college counselors there. So a great place to kind of talk college, talk what you know, and then study with friends. In front of us is the dorm. So if you just cut it right down in half, on the left side is the boys' dorm, the right side is the girls' dorm. As mentioned earlier, you're separated in houses. So you only have access to your staircase and your house. And so we'll talk a little bit what a house has involved, but it's separated. So boys, girls separated, and then your house is separated. So there's a form of privacy, but then there's also a form of my house is my family away from family, which you'll see on Fridays. Next slide. So each house, and you'll see some pictures on the left that I'll talk about in just a minute. So each house, as mentioned before, has a group of students. They're supervised mostly by a student life counselor and then a residential advisor at night. There's 6 to 7 dorms in each house, and a living room. So a living room will have a TV. It'll be a place where there's going to be bean bags, places to kind of hang out. There's also in the larger dorms, there's some kitchen areas, so they can go with their student life counselor, and maybe they'll have a pizza night as a house or something like that, right? There's a family feel here, popcorn night. And then they'll have a shared communal bathroom just for each house. So there's an intimacy there. There's a togetherness there that kind of we're cleaning our space together. We're owning our space together. But then students also have their individual spaces, which we know is important for high school students. So every room has 2 to 3 students in it. And each room will have, for each student, will have a bed, a dresser, and a desk for each one of them. So I've been in some dorms and they're decorating it, they're putting beads up, they have all kinds of things to make it their own and feel good for those 5 days they're on campus. On the left side on the top, you'll see a boys' dorm. They're doing some studying and kind of a communal space outside of one of their dorm rooms. That's not the living room, but that's just kind of a study area that they have. And on the bottom, you'll see 2 young ladies decided to do some reading and studying on their bed. because it feels like home. And so as long as it's a comfortable space, they can do some studying and get prepared. Next slide. So just a little bit about schedule. So again, on Fridays, school ends at 2 o'clock, and there's two options to get home. One of them is parents can and families can pick up right at the campus at 2 o'clock. The other option is that we have vans that take students to the community, anywhere from 3 to 5 miles away from home, and sometimes closer, 1 to 2 miles. And so it might be a YMCA, a community center somewhere near your house, where students can go, play basketball, study, hang out, dance if they'd like to, play some activities and do some activities until family picks them up at 6 o'clock. And it depends on your schedule, right? What works for you, 6 o'clock or the 2 o'clock schedule on Fridays. Next slide. And then again on Sundays. So at 3 o'clock on Sundays, families can drop them back off on the campus at 3 o'clock, where we'll have dinner and then get ready for the week before they go home again on Friday, or we'll have the vans come pick up at 3 o'clock. So completely family discretion and what feels right, all at no cost to families. So none of this requires any funding at all. We cover it all. Next slide. So one of the questions I get is around commitment to family and what does that look like? So I just want to talk a little bit briefly about our model. Next slide. One of the things that's really special about SEED is that there's boarding schools where it's 7 days a week, and then students come home sometimes for summers and then for holidays. And we actually believe that family is important, family and friends. Neighborhood is important as part of students' development and kind of connections that they naturally need in order to kind of grow, and also kind of celebrate their growth with their family. And so SEED-LA is really centered around getting to know families, starting from even the application process. What do you value? What's most important to you? We want to know what's important to you so that we make sure we're not only supporting students, but that we're lifting up the relationship that's there. This is a partnership, and it's going to be a partnership for 8 or 9 years until students graduate. And so we want to make sure that we are being authentic about those partnerships and reaching out from the start. We're going to involve families not only in those fun events where we have dinner nights, there's dances, there's football games, basketball games, we have dance performances. There's going to be a lively kind of experience there. But there's also, pictures that are sent home of what's happening during the day, right? There's updates from the student life counselor. So you know not only academically what's happening, but what's happening after school. And we know that as teenagers grow, it becomes harder and harder to know what's happening in their lives because they're becoming independent. They're developing their own personal lives. And so SEED-LA provides a little window into students' lives throughout the day, 24 hours a day, in ways that most of us don't have access to our children once they're past 7th, 8th grade. And so this is kind of a nice way to actually keep families involved and kind of keep them aware of what's happening. And then our ongoing commitment to building positive relationships as the center of the work that we do. We talked about making connections and the importance of connections, and then taking a journey around our commitments of taking responsibility, leadership. That's also a journey that we believe adults do at SEED-LA and that we bring and engage our families in. How do we make sure that our relationships stay strong so that we can support students for 8 or 9 years, but also that we're staying open-minded and curious about how to kind of navigate forward. And so that's a commitment we are doing as far as our family engagement. Next step. Next slide. I want to dive a little bit more into our socio-emotional learning. Next slide. One of the other pieces, so we have our Compass curriculum that really talks about this journey, but we also do circles, and we do circles both in our academic program, we do it in our student life program, we do it with our adults, and we do it with students, because we believe that ultimately we need to actively check in with each other. We need to actively talk about our experiences because we might be having shared events, but not the shared experiences from events. And that we need to give appreciation in order to be able to learn how to accept it. And also appreciate people for both small things and large things that they do for us every day. And then also celebrate growth. All those things are things that we don't naturally do and certainly don't have time to do in our day-to-day lives. So we pause it. That's what 24 hours a day allows us to do. Allows us to pull back and say, no, we're going to appreciate each other. And we're also going to learn how to appreciate ourselves to build joyful and expansive learning environments. I know as a former principal, former superintendent, I wanted all of this to happen during the school day, but you just didn't have enough hours. And so this is a very positive program that we're bringing in our schools, and I've seen it transform lives. So this is something I'm very excited about. Next slide. I put this in here because I think it's just good to see. I think, you know, we struggle, I think in general, to make sure that we have enough socio-emotional support, particularly after a pandemic, particularly after we've had a lot of stuff happening across the country, to make sure that we have enough people to do the kind of work that we want our young people to do so that they can go and be stronger and better as they're moving forward and they're getting older. And so we make sure we have all of our staff, and this is just for next year. Next year, we're going to have 125 students. We'll talk about that in a minute. But we want to make sure that all of our staff is responsible for socio-emotional learning. That includes myself. We're all responsible for academic learning and socio-emotional development. But we also have really dedicated staff, our college counselor, which will be dedicated towards our 9th graders. We have an evening nurse. We have 7 student life counselors. We have 7 residential advisors. We have a director of socio-emotional health, a dean of socio-emotional learning, and a social worker on staff. And so we're not just saying socio-emotional learning, we're actually saying we actually need to prioritize it in the work that we do. And so this is one way. We have programming, and then we also make sure that we have the staffing to support it. Next slide. So physical safety, next slide. This is my #1 question that I get, and so I always like to tackle it is, you know, are we safe? How do we keep students safe? So CLA is a gated community that houses both CLA students and staff. There's a 24-hour-a-day security on campus, and similar to a regular school or a traditional school, families, anybody that comes into the school would check in with a security in the front and also front office person, and then sign in before they are able to meet with whomever they're meeting with. So we make sure it's a safe environment. We also make sure our teachers, our staff, our counselors, our advisors, everyone is vetted through FBI checks and are highly qualified to be teaching and working at CLA. So that's important to us. The difference is at nighttime, and at nighttime, no one is allowed on campus without authorization. And so authorization comes from the leadership team only, and it's usually for emergency purposes or a conversation that we've had with families directly, but no one's allowed on campus at night. And so it's a safe community, and it's something that we value. Next slide. The other question is around conflict. So if any of us here have had siblings, we know that when we start to live with young folks, it's totally normal to have conflict, arguments, and kind of work through a lot of frustration with other kids. And so that happens even during an academic day, and certainly can happen once you start living with others. And so how do we kind of get through that? And one of them is our Compass curriculum and our weekly circles. What I have noticed and what I've seen, and actually the picture you're seeing in front of you are 2 young men working through a conflict in circle. So one of them hurt the other one's feelings. And it's really powerful. We don't often allow or have conversations around how to disagree with someone, how to say you've been hurt, how to talk through your feelings. And so it's important to give young people the vocabulary and the power, right? We really want to empower students to say, that wasn't sitting well with me. I didn't like when you did that. And let's talk through that because I don't want that to be done again. And so part of our work is empowering students. And I would say for the majority of my career, when I have seen that happen, students do marvelous things around working through conflict. And so that's kind of our proactive approach to it. But we also have a strong CLA discipline policy that's aligned to many charter schools and LUSD schools across the city and county. that we pay attention to. We talk to students about upon their entry. They have a new student orientation in June. So we prepare students around that and families, and we adhere to that. But we want to make sure students are in a place where they can work through conflict before it gets to a place where you can't heal it, right? You can't fix it because damage has been done. We also do restorative circles in practice, which is different than what I've spoken to this group about previously. Restorative circles are around healing when damage is done, but it's not enough damage that we can't fix it. And so sometimes it's about apologies to community, sometimes that's apology to the student, and sometimes it's around we're going to have to put an action plan together so that we can heal. But again, none of those replace a discipline policy that we have in place. They're just things to kind of get students where they need to go because they're young people still learning. Next step. Next slide. All right, so let's talk about August 2022. So that's when school starts. And so I want to talk a little bit about what next year looks like and then kind of how we're progressing and then the application process. Next slide. So our campus is going to be built and ready to go by spring 2023. And so what we wanted to do is make sure that although the building is already on its way, if you drive right by it, you're going to get a little bit of chills because it's very exciting. You're going to see the building moving up very quickly. We wanted to make sure the first year was smooth and really provided all the resources that we wanted students to have, including soccer fields and all the things that they deserve to have. So we have rented out the American Jewish University for the first year, and this is why. It pretty much is our campus, and so that when we transfer right over, it's nice and smooth. So they have college-style classrooms, so students can go in and feel that pride that we want students to have. They have recreational spaces, a basketball court, soccer field, student center, a weight room, all the things our campus will have. And so students will move right into our permanent site and feel right at home. Exclusive use of dormitory buildings. There's separate girls' dorms and boys' dorms. I'm going to show you in a minute what that looks like. 24-hour security. We're still a gated community. It's a part of what we believe in, so it's safe. And then transportation is, again, provided on Sundays and Fridays. So pickup and drop off is not a big deal unless families choose to do pickup and drop off on the campus. Otherwise, we're taking those vans out to you. Next slide. Here's a picture of what that looks like. So if you can follow along here, you can just drive right into the parking lot. If you were a family member, you'd come right in. And then as you see on the left side, there is these blue areas that are marked out, and that's actually the academic building. So all classes will be done similarly to our permanent site on one floor. And so we'll have our classes there, and then we're going to have a cafeteria right on that same floor. So it's easy use. You also see around there's just beautiful green space. So it really follows our philosophy of really having outdoor and indoor learning. That's an opportunity for students. They'll follow the red line as they go to their residential housing if they follow with their 15 to 17 other students in their houses. And they're going to go right into the residential space. And so the blue marks the boys' dorms, TH and KH. And then you're going to see the girls' dorms, RH and LH. So separate dorms, separate areas. If you follow the red a little bit further down, you'll see the basketball courts right there. And then you'll go down and you'll see a beautiful soccer field in which last time I was there, I saw a little deer running by. So it was very cool. If I go back up and I come across from the residential houses, you'll see a student center. So that has a TV area, it has a little popcorn area. They have other areas for studying and doing clubs. And so it's just a nice area to kind of look out over the greenery and also have additional space for students to do their due. And so this is, as you can see, very similar to what we have in our permanent site. So we feel very, very lucky. Next slide. This is the aerial view because that's my jam. I like it. But you can see we're right off the 405 going off Mulholland Drive. So it's easy access to the campus. You'll see that on the left side. And then this is the beautiful greenery space. This is the area where they can go out. Perhaps a class will go out and do some reading on the grass area, but just really surrounded by trees. And it's going to be a beautiful experience for next year. And then again, we'll move to our permanent site as soon as we can. Next slide. All right, so let's talk about applications and then we'll have some time for Q&A. So feel free to put, I already see a couple questions in the chat. Awesome. We'll answer it in just a moment. Next slide. So here's the deal. We have the applications ready. So school starts in August 2022. We're looking for 125 ninth graders to apply. And it's open right online. And we'll talk a little bit. There's 2 ways to apply. It takes 5 minutes online to apply and very simple. No Social Security is required at this time. And there's a separate lottery for both boys and girls. So we make sure that we're pooling for the different residential houses. Next slide. Again, open enrollment here, and then our lottery is in March of 2022. And so that's when we do our lottery then. Next slide. And you can also go into our handles around more information on our website. Our Facebook has information. If you tweet, we're on there, follow us. And then LinkedIn. So there's all kinds of ways to get information. So here we go. So we have the online application. That's the website right there. As soon as I can, I'll also put it in the chat for you. If you go to our website, you could also, which is www.seedschoolla.org, you'll see it right on the right side as well where it says applications. That's also another way to go and access it. Again, 5 minutes. The other way is if online isn't your jam, and that's okay, please give us a call. The phone number is right there. 323 number, extension 90. You could also email us at info@seedschoolla.com. We will get back to you within 24 to 48 hours. We're very speedy. And we are happy to do a home visit and drop off an application or pick up an application. We're happy to also come and talk a little bit more about Seed LA. So feel free to invite us. We can also do Zoom meetings where we talk a little bit more. We just did a neighborhood chat the other day where a neighborhood was interested, a particular street was really interested in learning more. So we're happy to come out and engage in any way that we possibly can. Next slide. Okay, so we can take the slide right off if you'd like, Carolyn. And then we can go into some Q&A, and I already see some that I might have missed. Is there one I should start with, Carolyn, for some questions?
We can go ahead and go in the order that they came. Yeah, I think they should all be there. So
Okay.
we can go with the first one. I can read it out. If students have been enrolled in a dual immersion program since elementary school through 8th grade, are they able to test into a higher level for foreign language? Or are students expected to take another foreign language if they've already received AP credit in 8th grade?
Oh, that's a really great question. So right now for the 9th grade, we are offering ELL courses, English Language Learner courses, courses for students who have a little bit more proficiency in language and need just deeper language acquisition support. And then we have our advanced speakers. And so that's what we're focusing on right now. What we are offering is after school foreign language in different areas so students can study and look at that before they go into their 10th grade year where we're looking at more options. And so I don't know what language you're particularly talking about. I can talk more about that if I have specifics, but there is going to be different language acquisitions, different language courses based off of where students are in their proficiency. I know sometimes with high school, all students go into the same course. And we recognize that there's going to be different needs around that. Let me know if I didn't hit your question very well. I'm happy to wrap around and hit it again. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, it looks like they clarified. One student is in Mandarin and the other is in Spanish dual immersion.
Okay, so Spanish we would have you covered. The other one you said was Chinese?
Mandarin, yes.
Oh, Mandarin, great. So Mandarin is something that we'd probably look into for as a club if there's a group of students who can do it, but we're not focusing on Mandarin for year 1. But I love that they're in that immersion. That's great.
All right, the next question is family away from family going to be a big theme for this program?
Is family away from family going to be a big thing for this program? I don't know if I fully understand it, but I'm going to take a stab and then just let me know. We believe that family is important, and we believe that friends and community are also equally important. And so I think it will be really important for us to balance that and have a relationship with our families. What we will do is we form kind of cohorts in those 15 to 17, which can feel like a family away from home while they're not at home. Um, but I think we don't call it families for a reason. We do believe it is kind of a group, a cohort of students. So I would say that that's kind of what we're focusing on, but it does feel that way. If you go on campus, there's a community feel that happens with that cohort and group of students that is comforting, it's supportive, and they're excited to tell their families when they go home about it. And so I think that's the feeling that I would say happens. Let me know if you want me to circle back on that one. Is it an extracurricular question?
Yes, since extracurriculars are based on interest and selection, do students still have to try out for teams and or apply for clubs?
So that's a really great question. We're still designing our student life program and what that looks like. Typically, I'm going to speak from my experience. Usually, applying for clubs is usually to express interest and kind of see kind of what they want to do and be part of and goal set around the clubs. But students are going to be accepted into clubs regardless. So I just want to throw that out there. But application is typically around let's express interest and let's make sure that I'm throwing my name into the hat, similar to what college does. Around sports teams, currently for ninth grade, typically what we do is accept students into the team, and there is usually a tryout around kind of first, second level kind of games, but it depends on who's on the team. It depends on how the coach manages the team. We're hiring for all positions, including coaches. And so I'm going to defer to them and their expertise. I would not call myself a sports expert, but that's been my kind of past in history when we're starting with one class at a time.
Great. And what kinds of colleges have students matriculated into?
Yeah, so when I look at Seed Miami, when I look at Seed DC, and this is something that we can also send out, Carolyn, is some kind of more recent stats that have come out. And then Seed Maryland, we have students that are going to Brown. We have students that are going to Duke University. We have students that are a range around the country. We have students that, I just met an alumni who went out here to Berkeley and is now living in Los Angeles, but went to school in Seed, Maryland. So there's a range of schools that students are in, but we are really about finding the best fit for students. So you could apply to, and students always apply to 12 colleges, 12 universities with us. You have your stretch schools, you have your schools where you're like, this feels good. And then you have your schools where a little bit safety schools, right? We do those kind of combination. But ultimately, we really encourage students to choose not only the culture that feels good and feels like a good fit, the university or college that feels like it's going to give them what they need, but also who's giving the biggest financial package and the perks that you deserve to have. And so we kind of look at those three combinations and then interest, right? Some students are like, I've been dreaming about this school forever, right? And we look at those kind of interests and we help students get where they need to go. And so we have a really strong percentage of students who would say that I got into my best fit college, which is I feel good about it, I chose it, I wanted it, it feels good, and I can afford it. Oh, thank you. Somebody put the application in. Thanks so much.
And yes, there's another question here is how is it handled? How is it handled if a student has appointments during the week, like medical or therapy, etc.?
Great question. Similar to a school, you check them out and then they can go to their appointment and then check them back in. We would just ask that you check them back in. Sometimes there's an ask to, oh, I'll just bring them the next day, but then they miss so much of what the large learning is. It's not just about the class, it's also about all the socio-emotional learning that they're learning. So we just ask bring them back. But it's, your family, you're the parents, you'll make a decision on when they need to be checked out and checked back in.
And then like a similar question or maybe the opposite, for the weekend, if they are unable to return to their homes, like what the procedure is for the weekend.
Yeah, and I'd say that all of us as educators probably need to get better about this, right? And the bottom line is it's our responsibility to make sure that we are working with the programs throughout LA County, because there's a lot of really amazing programs and organizations that make sure kids are okay. And so part of our duty and part of the role of the student life counselor and why we have 1 to 15 to 17 is to be able to make sure kids have a safe place to go, that they feel good about it. And then if the answer to that is no, then we will find an organization or a partner that will help us get there. And so all schools need to do that. I think because of the unique position we are in and the kind of partnership we have with families and students, we have more of an obligation, or I would say an awareness on how to help. And so that's what we're dedicated to do, is students will go someplace where they feel safe and cared for.
This is a follow-up question to the previous one about like midweek appointments.
Yeah.
Would it be similar if there was an extracurricular that the student participates in outside of the school, or is that discouraged during the week?
No, we would partner with you to kind of figure that out. There is, I've seen students that are in a special dance or ice skating, right? Like we got to encourage them to stay in that. That's cool. So we'd probably sit down and figure out some kind of plan to make sure they can get to their practice or wherever they need to go in a way that makes sense. But it would be an individualized plan.
I think that's all the questions I got directly and that are in the chat. Is there anybody else who has any questions they would like to ask while we have Jillian here live? Let's see. I don't know. Are there any other, is there any, I guess, any lasting kind of words you want maybe while people are typing if they're.
Yeah, I see one more question, but I just thank you so much for, did you want to go?
No, go ahead.
Okay. No, I was just going to think, really great questions, really thoughtful questions. And I just also appreciate families, friends, neighbors, anyone on here who took time to just learn about something new. And just hope that you spread the word, because everyone should know about it and should have an option to select it, because it's free. It's a free opportunity for amazing college preparatory education that's very rare. So take advantage of it. That would be kind of my last message. And I see one more question, so I'll pause.
Yes. So I guess it's like for the hiring process, we will be hiring teachers, educators with 3+ years of experience. Will the teachers be certified or credentialed?
Yeah, so always certified, always credentialed, always. The goal is, I'm going to say two things, right? Like what we look for. It's important to always open, when you're opening a new school, opening a new program, to have the most seasoned staff that you possibly can, right? Folks that can kind of build out new, can kind of make relationships, and really kind of recruit and build other staff throughout the year. So that's always the goal. I would say that we are having a hiring crisis across the country, and so we are game, and we are out there to make sure that we are recruiting kind of the best and the brightest and the most talented for our students who deserve the best. We are also open to all kinds of folks who can give our students what they need and what's there, but always credentialed is key. And we're keeping an eye on the fact that the market's hard. It's a hard market. So if you know someone, send them over.
And we have another question. How do you address substance abuse issues in youth? Can they still enroll?
I think I need a little bit more information on that, and possibly I wouldn't mind kind of doing a kind of one-to-one conversation about the particular student. But I think the overall rule is I have seen students thrive when there's just a little bit something different, right? And that's students that do really well academically and emotionally, and then students that are really struggling. And so I've seen SEED really work for that way. What I'd want to talk about for that particular student is, will a model like this do harm, in the sense that they need more support and more guidance in a particular way, and can we offer that at SEED? And so that's what I'd like to talk about. So feel free, if you have a student in mind that you want to chat about, just reach out to me and we can chat about it.
I guess to follow up that, I guess maybe we can, if you're, so I will be sending everybody who registered for the event an email with more information, and then Jillian's going to send me some more info so you guys have it all at your fingertips, including, I guess, however way to contact Jillian if you have any additional questions. And it looks like that's kind of all the questions we have in the chat right now. So we can conclude this super amazing informational event with us today. Thank you so much, Jillian. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. Thank you so much, Claudia Gutierrez, also for speaking with us. I'm overjoyed and to be a part of this event and to help spread the word about this amazing school. I'm so excited for this unique program and so thankful for all the work you're doing, Jillian, all the work Claudia and your colleagues have been working on, and Supervisor Holly Mitchell in bringing this to this amazing resource, at no cost to the community. It's just absolutely, I'm thrilled to have it here in LA County. And we're so excited for CEDA-LA's inaugural year. So, and with that ends the program. Again, I'll be sending everybody more information, and keep an eye out for more events in this series showcasing different educational avenues for students in LA County. And if you're interested in participating in more of our upcoming virtual programs, please visit us at lacountylibrary.org. Have a great week, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Carolyn.